So welcome to our podcast. This is the For & Co podcast with Pierre, Rami, myself, Robin, and our guest, Thom Pirone.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Great. Thom, tell everyone how you know us. How did we get to know each other?
Oh, that's a good story. So I met Pierre first, but I was driving by in Bexley. I saw the fence. I saw this place under construction, and I could see kind of a logo. So it took us a couple of weeks to figure out who For & Co was, what was going on. But there was something about it. I'm like, there's something in that. It's going to be an office building. I know it. It's going to be something like that. And so I finally found the website and called, and I talked to Pierre, and he was like, we're going to be doing this co-working space. You can come and tour it once we get, the building up a little bit. And I was like, I want to put a deposit in now. And he's like, I'm not even ready to take a deposit yet. Can I call you back in January? I was like, please write my name down and my number and put me at the top of the list. I want first choice of office. And so that's what happened. So while I'm the only one that probably thinks this is a merit badge, I consider myself to be your first tenant.
I think you are definitely our first private office tenant. I think the only people that were more first than you were Neely or Jade, but they were the first salon people.
Yeah.
But you were definitely the first office tenant, and probably the only office tenant that did not take a tour before we opened. Deposit. You were head first, and you walked on faith.
Yeah.
You were our running commentary in the office. It was, has anyone heard from Thom? Nope. Is he committed? Oh, yeah, deposit's in. He's committed. Then time would go by, and it's like, has anyone heard from Thom? Nope.
To the point where I think we started calling you. We're like, you sure you don't want to take a tour? You're like, yep, yeah. I'm good. Let me know when movie date is, and I'll be there. And
then it was, anyone heard from Thom? Nope. Okay. Do we have a move-in date? Well, he said he's going to move in as soon as we move, and it's open. Okay, do we have payment for the first month? Yep. He sent the payment in already. Okay. What does Thom look like?
Who is this Thom? Yeah.
It's spelled with an H?
Yeah.
Right.
A little suspicious.
We were very curious to know who Thom was because you were literally the only one who moved in sight unseen to anything and never questioned it whatsoever.
Had to get out of the home office. Had to get out. I was so excited. I had offices in the area before. My first office for Stronghold Training was right at the end of my street, which was just cool. I'd just gone into business. I looked for an office, and I literally found from my door, if you took the sidewalk, the very first office door you could find at the end of Oakstead Boulevard was my office. So it was super cool, and I had a little tiny space in there. It was so much fun launching the business there, but there was no community. I mean, we had community because I could hear the people around me. We knew they were there, and a couple of us talked, but no real sense of community. And I had other offices since then, but nothing like I knew this could be. And it has overwhelmingly surpassed my expectation of community. And now it feels like family. Now it feels like this is where I live.
That's
so
awesome.
Also, I'm sleeping here 3 to 4 nights a week. I just want to make sure that's cool.
You would not be the first one. It's been telling us that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I have someone requesting bathrobes and plush towels.
Yeah. Well, see, in the nap room, you need to have a sign that says a nap is 30 minutes to 4 hours so that people understand.
Understood.
And then you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one day we lost Rami for 3 hours in the nap room. I think he was knocked out cold in the nap room. We're like, we all thought he was just somewhere in the bit, like doing something. And I think one of us were like, he's been gone way too long. So we started checking the building, and one of us remembered, I think he went to go use the nap room a little bit ago. We went to go check, and behold, he was there, knocked out. And I think it was, I'm sure it's not the first time that somebody's been in there a little bit too long in the sense of...
To be fair, though, that was before we had opened up the building, and we had been there since like 6 a.m. So
I think it was definitely during opening. It was, I think, in like the first month or so.
Definitely, yeah. When we were overwhelmed and definitely overtired.
Yeah, but it's but after getting to know you for quite some time, we've become really good friends and had an evolving relationship in a lot of ways, but I think you are one of. If we were a cow with 5 different hearts, you're one of the 5 hearts in the building.
Thank you.
So cows have 5 hearts, right?
Stomachs.
Yeah.
But they also have multiple hearts, don't they?
Not that
I
I'm
don't
aware of,
believe
no.
so.
I think you're hoping they were hearts.
Isn't there another animal that has multiple hearts? I wish we had like a Jamie. Like
I can't think without ChatGPT at this point in time. So
Octopus has multiple hearts.
Octopus. Thank you, Jack.
thank you.
Octopus. If we were an octopus, which
Clearly
sometimes
we
it
don't
feels
have 5 brains.
it feels
We'll
like we
go
are, but you're definitely one of the heartbeats in this building for sure. But it's been really interesting to see your journey and your transition from a very, I don't want to say corporate, but a very traditional job to a very faith-based profession. And it's definitely impacted, I think, a lot more people than you realize. But I want to ask you, like, what was the moment you realized that you needed to pivot and you needed to really go all in on being a pastor and opening a church?
I have that moment several times a week, continually. So I became a Christian about going on 13 years, be 13 years this year, when I became born again, started really following the Lord. Probably about 2 years into that, I felt a call to ministry. So I've believed myself to be called to ministry for a long time, wondering why God won't put me in. Like, put me in, coach. You know, what is it that I need? And I needed a lot of growing up, and still do. But His time is perfect, and His ways are not our ways. And so I've really kind of been looking for that door for over a decade, and He's used that to steer me and shape me. But the moment that it occurred, finally, I knew that the call to ministry was nothing that I could set aside. And it made it very difficult to have other ambitions. It's like I always felt like I was 1 foot in because I'm going to go start a new initiative with my business. How can I really do that if I think I'm maybe starting a church or going into ministry at some times? A lot of wrestling back and forth. So I was very actively looking for a position in ministry. I had completed seminary. I was completely committed to not growing the business anymore. I knew this is what I needed to do. And I met with a local church pastor, and we were talking about me potentially taking over his church so he could retire. And while he was interviewing me and helping me through that process, he was seeing all the things I already knew, that I was entrepreneurial, that I had a lot of the training you would need to plant a church. I had been sought after by church planting organizations and interviewed and approved, but I just didn't end up wanting to go into their denomination or whatever. So long story short on that, even though he thought I could have been a good fit for his church, he could just see, and the Lord led him to tell me, you should go plant a church. And I kind of needed someone to tell me that, because planting a church can be a very presumptuous and arrogant thing. I needed to know it wasn't my idea, that it was completely God's idea, because He has to do it all. I can't go in this thing second guessing myself to think it's my idea. I really, even though I could see the writing on the wall as clear as he could, I really needed a guy to say to me, go plant a church. And what he told me, it stuck to me to this day. He said, stop talking about planting a church. Go tell people you're doing it and be doing it. Let God work that. And that day, I knew it. That was it. It was time. And the first person I called was you. And said, hey, I got this idea of planting a church. I'm not sure if that Bexley AB room would work. And you're like, you got to talk to my dad. and 30 days later, we had our first service, June 4th of 2023. So it was a pretty quick pivot at that point. I was prepared. I was jerseyed up. I was on the sideline waiting for my number to go in for a decade. But when it finally came, it was that quick, 30 days.
Yeah, and it's and one thing that really sticks with me is I remember, I think it was our grand opening party. Not the day that we opened, but the day that we had that big grand opening party for the whole neighborhood and community and area, that my dad made the declaration that he wanted this building to be a place an altar for God.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that declaration come to fruit with you planting a church here, other churches having their administrative staff here, having church groups do Bible studies here, you doing Bible studies here, it really has become that place.
Mm-hmm.
And it really first started when you came to us and said, I want to plant a church here. And it's something we couldn't deny. It was something we never envisioned having a church here. It's not something we didn't want. It's just wasn't in our crystal ball of what we thought would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And to have it, I think it adds such a unique dynamic to the community. Because I think when we think about community is like, what do you need? You need people, family, and God. You need those three things to have a real community. And having you guys in the building as a church, it's something that I can't really explain how much it adds, but the amount of value for people spiritually that it adds. And it adds a sense of comfort. It adds a sense of reassurance in a lot of ways, that they have that available to them if they choose to go to service on Sunday, and they don't have to go to an unfamiliar place for the first time or something like that, especially for the people that work here.
Yeah.
And even people that are guests or clients of other people and they find out we have a church here, they're a lot more inclined to go because it's comforting. They know the area, they know the place, they know the building. And I think it's definitely your way of preaching also is a method I prefer, in the sense of the way you really break it down and go after the details, and you fill in the details and conceptual things that people may miss.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that it's watching a simple church grow is one of the most exciting things in, I would say, faith.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of, my parents have that kind of similar story with the Orthodox Church in Clearwater. They're one of the first, 5 families or couples to start a church in a living room. They were in a living room, and that's where they met and started. And now I think the original families that started it are no longer there because
they're there, but now it's the children and grandchildren
Yeah,
are
exactly.
starting to...
Even better.
Yeah, so, and it's now quite large, and it's over 6,000 members of the church there.
Come on.
So the community's grown immensely from 10 people that we started with to where it is now, as they brought family and cousins and friends along the way too. But it is something we all cherish very much so, and we are very protective of. Tell us about Thom. How did Thom get to be who he is today?
Oh gosh.
Actually, I'll before you ask about Thom, let me ask a little bit more precise question about Thom.
Sure.
When you are waking up on a daily basis, the mentality that you have in your relationship with God, walk us through that daily thing, because I know there are some things that you do as a routine because it shows your dedication to what God's providing each and every day, and I want a little bit of what that is, because I know it hasn't always been that way.
Yeah, no, I was not always following Jesus on a regular basis. So I'll avoid some of the I don't mind answering specifically, but I think sometimes there can be some danger in comparison. But I'll say that what I strive for, as soon as I can be aware of it, which is usually pretty early, right as waking most of the time. But my goal is to connect with the Lord consciously, to become present. I've spent decades of waking up and immediately springing into action. I was a leadership and performance coach for many years and still am. Yeah. So it's what needs to be done, how can we do it efficiently, and enjoying all of that, by the way. It wasn't, for me to make an efficient day was the best kind of day and what I would consider a fruitful day.
It's part of your design that God created you, and just He made you that way, but it also can't always be said it was used for what He always intended.
Well, it's still, that voice is still in my head all the time, telling me you can run faster, you can do more, why aren't you doing more? And it can be weaponized against me, and often is. So my goal every day is to find a conscious connection with God. And typically I have some practices that just help me do that. My goal is to get alone and still as quick as I can. I'm not someone who runs to a Bible reading plan in the morning, but I have done that. I'm grateful I did a Bible reading plan for 2 years to get through the Bible twice. I think it's great to kind of get through it all twice to get the context of all that. It was very helpful early on. But today, I go to the scriptures more naturally. And I think the reason it's doesn't have to be as much of a discipline for me now is because I'm being still and I'm being present and I'm quieting the storm in my head early on. And then that leads me to prayer and then to the scriptures. But I don't necessarily have a formal morning routine because I have 3 kids and a wife.
Well, I mean, I called it a formal morning routine, but I mean more of that routine for you spiritually of just like you said, just that conscious contact with the Lord and having that moment of saying, hey, let's just be in each other's presence for a moment.
Yeah. Well, for me, so that's when that to me is waking up. So let's say I don't get that until I pull in the office. I do have a little habit where I won't leave my car. That's a transition point. So I won't leave the vehicle I'm in without deep breathing and a prayer. It's just any transition from one place to another. Transitions are very important just for our emotional well-being. Yeah. So I might have been scurrying along all morning, woke up, jumped in the shower, ran out of the house. None of that took place. and I pull in here or wherever I'm going, and in that place I'll consciously connect. And that is when I think I've actually woken up for the day. That's okay. Now I'm awake. Until I'm in the presence of God, I'm an animal.
You're an autopilot.
You're
in not just that moment, like you said, just a routine of just you go in autopilot, go quick, and just go.
It's a very comfortable place for me to be.
Yeah. It's easy to be in because it's and in one way it's muscle memory. It's just done out of habit.
Yeah. There's symptoms though. Eventually I'll start to hear too much noise in my head. I'll start to get a sense of overwhelm. I'll start to feel like I'm more intense. I'm gripping. I'm concerned about my level of control. And all of that has become for me a reason to go get still again. The Bible talks about how Jesus would sneak away for hours at a time.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, if he needed it, I need it all the more.
Yeah.
Just to get away from me. It's not people.
Yeah.
I could blame people, but it's really... After any social interaction, I'm going to have these wheels spinning for a while. So I normally have to go get still after that. And I think it's come to be a very blessed crutch in my life.
Yeah. That's good. That's exactly what I was looking for. I just wanted to ask how
I'm going to avoid questions of Tom, I think, by spinning it that way.
Okay. We'll see. So who is Tom? How did Tom come to be who he is?
Yeah. So if I had to give a definition for what I am, I'm no different than anyone else. I know this may sound a little weird coming out of someone who is a pastor's mouth, but I am nothing more than a conscious being. I am a conscious being who is aware, and by God's grace, I've become aware of Him, and especially through His Son Jesus Christ, and through that I've come to be truly alive. And so I am a recipient of grace who is unworthy of any of that, but I have the pleasure and the privilege of living now in the kingdom of God and seeing other people enter in. And so I'm a disciple, and currently I get the privilege of being a pastor. But I'm also a father of 3 wonderful children and a husband of my wife Cindy for 3 years. She knows I always add to the date. I'm always like, we've been married like 25 years.
It's always to go better. I've learned it's better to go over than it is under.
It's better. Yes.
Women prefer over than under.
Except with weight.
That is very true.
Wait, under there. This is recording, correct? That's a problem. That's a problem.
I will offer a different perspective. When you're talking about marriage, it sounds like a life sentence. When you say over too much. It's like, wow, I've been married 32 years, right?
Well, it's all in the way you say it. It's where you say, I've been married 22 years, but you could be over a year. It sounds happy.
But if you say, I've been married 19 years, and she says 22, has it really been 22? It feels like 19. We have so much fun together, or, whatever the case may be.
Well, there's seasons in marriage. I mean, we were married, so it's been 23 years, and we were married for 8 years without kids. Because I was in the military.
We were very similar. We were 7 years before we had Pierre.
That's why we're such great parents now. So I was.
I'll get back to you about that point.
I was in the Navy. I joined the Navy on 9/11. I just happened to be at the military entrance and processing station in Tampa the day the towers got hit. And so it was just kind of a weird season. I got married a year into the Navy. I joined the Navy kind of late. I turned 24 in boot camp. I got married at 24. And, you know, it was always a good chance I was going to be in harm's way. So we decided to wait to have kids till I got out. I loved the military, but it wasn't good for my marriage. It wasn't bad for my marriage. It didn't hurt my marriage, but it was clear I was honestly too ambitious. Anyway, I couldn't stay in, even though I was doing very well in the military. So I got out, and we had kids a couple years later. We weren't sure we were going to be able to. So the first really 10 years of our marriage, 8 of those we didn't have kids. 10 or 11 of those we weren't following Jesus. And in 2012, I started following Jesus, and 30 days later, Cindy followed suit. We said we were Christian. Cindy even got baptized during that time, started going to church. We had attended churches off and on, but we were not truly Christian. It's almost shameful to say that, too, because I was even the leader on the ship that I was on in the Navy for Christian services. Like, I'm the one who prayed every night over the loudspeaker. I'm the one who ran the services as like a side duty. You know, helped me promote. And I was being as sincere as I think I could be at the time, but I was not truly born again. So I kind of have a perspective of marriage now without Jesus and with him. Mm-hmm. And I'll take with him. Marriage is phenomenal. So I may have been married 23 years, but let me tell you, the last 12 have been phenomenal. And difficult, for sure, as any difficulty, but so much richer now. God deals with me, so she doesn't have to. God deals with her, so I don't have to. And so we can just come together as co-disciples, and it's wonderful.
Right. So tell us, children, 3?
Yeah, 3. So I have a boy, 14-year-old, my oldest boy, and then my 10-year-old daughter, Juliet, who is my favorite, and then and then Evan is 8.